Good morning and welcome to Sunday SoulDay, weekly fuel for your mind, body, and soul. Today we have Jeramiah Solven, former U.S. Army Infantry Company Commander, 75th Ranger Regiment Platoon Leader, ultra athlete, cage fighter, and founder of Conquer Academy. Welcome to Sunday SoulDay, Jeramiah.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm excited to contribute to your audience, change some lives. And that's the one thing that's about me is anytime I come in and do either a presentation like this or a guest appearance, I just want to help people and I want to move them towards what they're after and what they're going for in life. And so I'm excited to contribute to your guys' mission.
I love it. Well, you're just going to be solving problems left and right.
To your That's right. Name. It's in the name. It's in the name. So destined for me.
Name. I love it.
That's right.
Well, I want to just start off because your background is so remarkable, and I could not wait to talk to you. Shout out to the person who kind of helped get this started, Luis Garcia, who told us all about you and your social media. I went straight to your account, was just like amazed at how much social media you're putting out. I cannot believe the amount that you're putting out and just the wealth of knowledge in the content. But really inspired by your journey. You started off the small town roots and became an infantry officer, then transitioned into entrepreneurship. Can you share more about your journey from a small town to being an infantry officer in the Army, and what inspired you to pursue that path? Because you were an athlete.
Yeah. I'll just start off with saying this is even in the coaching space. So everything that I've accomplished in life, I never wanted to do. And I never wanted to be a leader. I never wanted to be a coach. I never wanted to achieve anything that I ran 100 miles in the Colorado Rockies. I've done some cage fighting. I never really wanted to do any of it. But what ended up happening was that I've developed this, I've just confronted my fears my entire life. And so my life is a culmination and a byproduct of confronting fear and failing forward my entire life. So I grew up in a town of like 300 people, like you mentioned, and I was very sheltered. We used to hunt a lot, and my dad would hunt to put food on the table. And so I grew up in the mountains of Northern California, and he used to take me out on these bear hunts. And I mean, I had close calls while we were out on those hunts. I was face to face with several black bear as I was growing up. And there was one time I was 14 years old and I was tucked down in this manzanita bush, and there was one like pushing its way up against the manzanita bush, trying to sniff us out. And it ended up taking off as the dogs ran up. So my childhood was a little bit unorthodox, and it was a lot of outdoors, a lot of like kind of like a Tarzan type of kid. And so I didn't really have a whole, a very large worldview. I didn't really know what success looked like. I just knew deep down inside that I wanted success, but I feared that I would never get it. And so I would see athletes on TV. I would see I'd watch, NFL players, NBA, and I would just like, man, I really want to do something like that one day. That'd be so great. But I knew that deep down inside, I feared I could ever be successful. I didn't think I could ever amount to the success that those athletes had. So it was this weird situation where as a kid, I wanted success. I associated athletes with success. But deep down, I was like, you know what? I'm just from this small little town. There's no way I'll ever accomplish anything like that. Well, to be brief with like my story and journey, basically I got into high school, I got addicted to wrestling, and I started progressing through that. Everybody beat me my freshman year, like everybody. And then my senior year, I lost like 2 matches that year, but it wasn't good enough for me to believe in myself and go on and compete at the college level. I didn't qualify for state. And when that happened, I basically had worked myself up, and becoming an athlete was my dream. But because I didn't qualify for state, I deselected myself, and I said, I guess I'm just not good enough. And so I drifted, and I ended up in a community college. I went to Butte Community College in like Chico area. After 2 semesters, I ended up dropping out because I wasn't really doing anything there. I was just living the party lifestyle, underage drinking, and I just had no purpose, direction, or motivation. So I enlisted into the military. When I first came in, I was an engineer. So I actually started off on the support side of the military, doing survey and design type work. Okay. So I wasn't even doing like a hero type. Well, those guys are heroes, but what I mean is I wasn't in the combat MOS. And I found myself in Iraq, and I turned 20 and 21 in Iraq. I was an engineer, and I was I learned everything about leadership and life through the military and war. I mean, the military really, like, war really raised me. I was an adult from, in the military from 18 until my early 30s. And so my formative years of being an adult were really through war and conflict. And so I learned a lot about leadership, and I was exposed to life and death. And when I was in Iraq at 20 years old, there was an officer in our unit. He ended up getting killed by a roadside bomb. And when he was killed, I started reflecting deeply on life. And I was like, man, what am I doing over here? And so I started soul searching for purpose. I had landed in a job that I liked it a little bit, but there was something missing in my life. And I felt like I had settled. I just had picked a job that was realistic inside of my mind. Becoming an engineer, I was like, oh, you know what? That'll make sense when I get out of the military. I could go ahead and apply that to a civilian career. But on that deployment, I realized something deeper. I realized that I had given up on my dream of being an athlete, and I was pursuing a path that was normal and traditional. I basically picked a path that I thought was realistic versus going inside to what was true to me and picking a career in the military that I really, really wanted. And so after that young officer, he passed away, I was soul searching, and I found myself in the middle of this city, Bakiba, Iraq. The 82nd Airborne were going through and clearing a village. And I was listening, and I just put up this patrol base and built it out for them. It was about like 2:00 in the morning. And I was laying there with my body armor on, just looking up at the stars, and my gun across my chest. My brow was wet from sweat. And as the infantry were clearing, I just remember having this feeling inside. And I was thinking, man, I shouldn't be here. I should be over there in that gunfight. I should be doing something more significant with my life. I should be part of this battle. And so I had this warrior's call. And after that deployment, that 15 months, I made a decision that I had nothing to lose in life, that that life ended quick, and that I wanted to give dream chasing another shot. And so I decided to pursue what was in my heart, what I wanted to do, which was become an infantry officer. And I started pursuing a path into special operations. Now, I struggled with doubt a lot along that path. I mean, it was a 7-year journey from the time I made the decision till I arrived at my dream job in the 75th Ranger Regiment in special operations. 7 years. And along that way, I see myself as I was alone during that period. And I was a little bit ostracized because I had gotten back from war and conflict, and I couldn't relate to people. And but deep down inside, I wanted this dream job that I really just wanted inside of my soul. So I ended up landing that dream job. And for me, that transformation was huge because I had gone back to school. I had completed a college degree. I became an infantry officer, failed a ton along the way. And I made it into the 75th Ranger Regiment, which is a top military unit. I mean, these are the 0.01% of society inside of the military. Like, these guys are phenomenal. So for me, it was a lot like I made it to the NFL. I was in the 75th Ranger Regiment. And here I am. I'm like, man, this is my dream job. Not only that, but then my platoon was the Bad Mothers Platoon. And we were selected by our Ranger Battalion and the regiment to go overseas and do high value target raids, which meant that not only were we in the NFL, but we got selected to go play in the Super Bowl. We were one of 2 platoons that went overseas that year to do raids in Afghanistan. And we were going after people that the president had visibility of. Now, I'm no war hero, but I have spent a lot of time at war, and we did do some really special missions like that. There's the guys out there in the military that are 10 times the hero that I am, and I'm none of those things. But I did get the fortunate experience of going overseas and serving with the best of the best and doing an outstanding mission. That mission ended, that deployment ended with an unfortunate series of events. I mean, it was a mission gone south. My last Ranger mission, I went in to go clear this compound with my team, and which has turned into a huge gunfight. We had a barricaded shooter. He was dropping grenades down on top of our task force. We had machine gun fire inside of the compound. We had small arms fire from around the periphery. And I was the officer responsible for the ground combat of that mission. And we were also paired up with the partner force, the Afghan special operators. Well, a whole squad of those guys got wounded. And then my leaders under me, they all got wounded as well. So we were combat ineffective, and we actually had to withdraw that night. And so my dream job, the thing that I'd been pursuing for so long, it was a nightmare. And they say war is a boy's dream and a man's nightmare. And it is absolutely true. I felt like I failed as a leader. I felt like I failed that entire mission. I felt like I failed all my men. And what ended up happening is while we did lose that battle, our higher headquarters ended up reaching a strategic success the following days because of the intelligence that we got off of that mission. And on top of that, nobody died that night. So while it felt like a failure inside of my heart and set inside of me as a person, as a leader, it was actually a success because nobody died. And I struggled though, because I left the regiment. Again, I was kind of on my own after I left the regiment, and we can get into some of that stuff later. But what ended up happening is after I left the regiment, I went on to become an infantry company commander. I went back and I did my 4th combat deployment. And again, I was at that crossroads, was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life and the military. So I'm sitting on my couch and it's a Sunday, and I get inspired to sign up for a 100-mile race. And so I signed up for a 100-mile race, and I'm in this soul searching phase of life again. And I signed up for the race on a Sunday. The following Saturday is when I went and ran it. So no train up, no nothing, just went out there on 6 days later and went and ran the race.
Oh my gosh. Okay. First of all, your journey is remarkable. And I love that despite you feeling like, okay, I'm not going to make it to the NFL, or I'm not going to make it in wrestling, you didn't quit on yourself.
Yeah.
And it's a real testament to your resilience and your character. And I love that, because it seems like a lot of people do this. They go for the job that maybe makes sense, right? Or, that sounds good on paper. But I love that you went inside and really, went inward to figure out what the heck you wanted to do, and then really put yourself through the ringer, because I cannot imagine what it took to be, on that unit. I can't even imagine. So that's
like I said, when you're exposed to conflict at a young age and you deploy, you spend a lot of time alone. And when you spend most people in life don't spend enough time alone with their own thoughts. They don't know who they are or what they want out of life. And the military provided that to me in ways that I didn't even expect and didn't even want. It just allowed me to go inward. And so I that 100-mile race that I signed up for, I went inward again. I signed up for that race, and I was terrified and nervous, and I put it on social media and told people I was going to do it. And it was a transformative experience for me. I ran that race, and I met a guy that ran 100 milers after that race. And he did them he said he's in history. And he told me that I should not have completed that race. He said it was one of the toughest ultras in the United States, and that it was a phenomenon that I completed it, because it was at 11,000 feet. People don't just sign up for those type of races and complete it. Well, something happened to me out there, and I was, it was one of the toughest physical things that I've ever done. But I realized on that race that what I had been doing in the military was basically trying to redeem myself as a failed athlete. And I was chasing significance, and I was chasing achievement. And when I realized that I realized during that race that achievement wasn't the actual thing that made me happy in my military career. The thing that actually made me happy was helping out the leaders that I developed as an officer as I came through my military career. So I realized that selfless service was the thing that really inspired me. So on that race, I decided to get out of the military and pursue my calling of building leaders, because that's where I discovered it.
Wow. Hi, Jeremiah.
Hey, what's up, Allie?
Wow, what an incredible journey that you went on. It sounds like you learned so many valuable lessons during your time in the military and were able to carry it with other aspects of your life. So I'm looking forward to hearing how the military impacted all the other areas of your life. So I wanted to ask you about, there's a statement, there's no atheist in foxholes. It's a quite thought-provoking statement. Can you explain this belief and how it relates to personal transformation and resilience?
Yeah, in the darkest times of my life, whether it was at Ranger School or deployments or going through just the issues that life delivers us all, right? Like after I left the regiment and I was dealing with the leader guilt from that failed mission, I was, guilt, your mind is a very powerful thing. It can either help you build a dream life or it could help potentially end your life. And after that mission, I actually, I was developing really bad habits. I was drinking a ton, and I ended up putting a gun to my head one night. And obviously didn't pull the trigger, but I almost did. And during that moment, that was another hard moment that really stacked up on my life. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about that moment right there where I almost ended it all, or deployments or Ranger School, but in the toughest times of my life and anybody's life, people always pray to somebody. Why is that? So there's no atheist in a foxhole means that when you're in the thick of it, when you're in your hardest times, that you're going to tap into the spiritual side of you, and that everybody here believes in God to some degree, whether it's a universal power or something. So there's no such thing as atheists in a foxhole, means that we all believe that there is a God. And if we would tap into it, which I did that night, I started soul searching that night that I almost ended it all. I found purpose. And so no atheist in a foxhole, it means that there is a spiritual power all around us. There is God all around us. And really the way through a dark time is to tap into that spirit, that belief system, and it can really pull you through and help you see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Wow, thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm sure it'll resonate with so many of our viewers or our audience members. That's really deep. And just, I can't even imagine being in that position. Thank you so much, Jeramiah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And you mentioned being in that dark space, having the gun in your head, not pulling the trigger. Many veterans, have suffered from a range of physical, mental health challenges, including depression, anxiety, substance abuse, as you mentioned, traumatic brain injuries, and even just trying to grapple with the complexities of PTSD. Can you share your transition, what, a little bit more, sharing with our audience, what was that like for you?
Yeah, it's actually the cornerstone of my coaching now. So I've built all my coachings as programs that help me and turn my life around in different chapters of my life. So the first thing that I did was when that night that I almost ended it all, I realized that I wasn't attacking all of my weaknesses in life. And what I started to do is I instead of ending it, I said, enough is enough. I said, enough with the drinking, enough with the bad habits. I was living a kind of a party lifestyle. I was like a superhero by day, but kind of reckless at night and on the weekends. And while I wasn't, I was still performing at work, I wasn't staying within integrity myself 7 days a week, right? We all have things like that in our lives where behind closed doors, we're not being as honest with ourselves as we want to be. So what ended up happening is I started really, really working on me when I said enough is enough. Okay, I started, like we mentioned before, I started praying more, connecting more with my spirituality. I also started journaling. I haven't missed a single day of journaling. I've missed one day in the last 6 years. And so I really started working on me. I worked on my habits. I cut out the drinking. I started working on my daily action plan, which every single day, what I do is I do 5 action steps that I'm resisting that are tied to my goals. So I do 5 things that I'm resisting every single day to build my dream life. I journal, I read, and I work out. And that fundamental, what that did for me is it took me from an average performer to an elite performer, because I started really focusing on elite level discipline and elite level habit building. And that started getting my confidence back as a leader. And I stopped living in guilt and shame. And I started even just thinking more positively through the whole thing. I started thinking my mind was aimed at me and all the problems that I had. But when I started journaling, I started working out, I started reading, I started setting goals, and I started chipping away at these things. Now, all of a sudden, my mind was pointed at the life that I wanted to build. Elon Musk has taken the entire planet to Mars with his mind. That's the power of our mindset. And most people, we get so caught up in our own world that we can point our mind at ourselves and potentially end it. So that was the big shift for me. And those are some of the key components that I focused on, which is every morning today, even to this day, I work on my body, I work on my soul, I work on my mind, and I go train. And I do that 7 days a week and I don't miss.
Wow. That's incredible. And that's a large reason why we started, Sunday SoulDay, fuel for your mind, body, and soul, because, we both, Ali and I are former athletes as well. And, transitioning, regardless of any part that you're transitioning out of, whether losing a job, whether, being an athlete, then no longer being an athlete, any transition that you experience, you go through a low, and then, how do you come out of it? That's the real testament of who you are. And I love that you spend time journaling and, really focusing on your body. I see a lot of that in your videos as well. So
yeah, my intent with my content is to lead others with it.
Yeah, I love that.
It's like I'm showing up, and I know there's people out there that aren't in a position like I was to really invest in myself, but they want to know what right looks like. How can I get myself out of this rut? And so every single day that I show up, it's not about me. It's about being of service to other people and posting every single day at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is, showing the journal, showing the working out, showing the reading, and showing them by example that this is how you keep yourself consistent, disciplined, and build yourself up into the leader that you were born to be.
I think it's so good. The 5 things that you're resisting to help you practice discipline and habit building. That's so good. I'm going to add that to my daily routine.
Yeah.
Also really quickly want to touch on just everything that you're sharing. I have so much gratitude. My late grandfather was in the military. He was in the Air Force, and I had to interview him, I think, for a high school or college project. We were in Hawaii talking, and he started tearing up and was like, do I really have to answer these questions? And you could tell he was extremely triggered by it and didn't feel like he had a safe space to process and share his feelings. So everything that you're doing is so incredible. And I just want to thank you from such a personal space, from what I saw in a man who was my hero, and how hard it was and how he didn't get the same opportunities that you're giving other people. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then, so what led you to establish Conquer Academy, and how is it making a difference in the lives of people that it serves?
Yeah. So my mission with Conquer Academy is to build leaders, but in order to fulfill that, I have to first help get the person what they want. Like, that's what I do, is like, if you tell me what you want, I can help you get it. And then along the way, what I'm going to do is build you into a leader of character. I'm going to help you get more disciplined, consistent. I'm going to work with you on your integrity. I'm going to work with you on every facet of your life and help you achieve holistic success while you're focused on this one thing that you want, which I know I can help you get. I'm also going to build you into build out all the other areas of your life. So it got started because when in that period, that really dark time that I was experiencing, and I started working on myself. The next thing that I did after I worked on body, mind, soul, journaling, working out, building up my discipline and consistency, is I really started diving into personal development. And so personal development saved my life tremendously. I started listening to more podcasts, books, etc. Right. And I'm a great student. So if I learn something, I'm going to execute it perfectly. And as I was listening to these podcasts, I stumbled upon one. And there was a lady on there, her name's Sarah Centrella. She wrote this book called Hustle, Believe, Receive. And she was basically describing her path from broken to success. And I could relate a lot to the story. And she said one of the challenges that she had is that she didn't know a lot of people that were holistically successful that she could learn from. That was one of her challenges. And I was like, that's me. I was like, I know people that are successful in the military, but I don't know any successful people outside of the military that are holistically successful. And she said, if you don't know anybody that's holistically successful, just start looking for them and then interview them when you find them. And so I did that. And I found this guy online. I found a guy that he had gotten on another podcast. I found his Instagram. I reached out to him and I said, hey, can I get 30 minutes of your time? I want to talk to you about life success. And turns out that this guy ended up being a mentor in my life. He brought me in, he coached me. We ended up having a professional relationship where he coached and mentored me across time, but he was trained in person by Zig Ziglar for almost 2 years. So he passed down all the lessons that Zig Ziglar gave to him to me. And one of the things that he told me was that the world is not as it is, the world is as you are. So if you want to get more successful in life, what we really have to do is we have to like peel the onion back. We have to lift the hood up on Jeremiah. And then we have to start working on you. And then by working on you, you'll have all the abundance and success in all the other areas of life that you're after. So that's what we started to do. And when he taught me all that stuff at the end of, I actually started working with him on my last deployment to Afghanistan. And we had a bomb that hit like right behind my chew. And I like shut the computer down one day. I was like, hey, I got to go. We got a bomb that's hitting. And he was all freaked out. And I like closed the computer. But we ended up getting through that deployment, and the back end of the deployment, he knew that I wanted to build a business eventually. And he looked at my track record in the military and told me that he suggested coaching. He's like, you have an amazing track record. He's like, not only have you done all these physical things and you know about high performance, you know about leadership, you've gotten to the apex of your career in the military, you need to package this up and teach it to others. And when he had said that, I kind of laughed because I like never wanted to be a coach. I was like, that's not a thing, is it? And he's like, no, I think you could do a really good job. So I tried it out, and I had tried building businesses before I started working with him, and they all had kind of just lost steam and flopped. But with him, I tried this business out with coaching, and I got instant success. And not only did I get success, but the clients started getting success. So then I was kind of pissed off, right? Because I'm like, damn, this is like working. Now I have to do it. And if I'm going to do something, I'm going to be the best in the world at it. So I just kept like focusing on getting my customers results. It started off with work-life balance, goal setting and achievement. And then it evolved to all different sorts of things. I mean, I've helped business owners triple their revenue in like 3 months because the principles are all the same. If I help build the person, the leader builds the business. So I just have to work on the mindset and work on the leader, and that leader can get anything that they want in life. So that's how Conquer Academy was born. And it was born through mentorship, me getting mentored. And then it started off with me, testing it out with a client, getting results, and then just compounding that across time. And the thing that I've added to it along the way, when I started, was that, doing something for like money is never enough for me. Money does not drive me at all. So I have to have an enemy to fight. So I looked around at the world and I was like, listen, the world is in shambles. Our culture is deteriorating. There's poor quality leaders all around us. Not only that, but if you go on social media, everybody is misusing social media, taking advantage of other people. I said, why don't I just be a force for good against all this evil that's in the world? And so that's what I set out to do. Is I set out to make a difference. I set out to make a difference online in the coaching space and make a difference in the coaching space just by fighting the enemy of poor performing people, poor leaders, and just, toxic businesses on the internet.
That's so good to look at it that way, especially with your military history, that I have to have an enemy to fight and to find a way to make get the motivation for yourself in a way that works for you.
Yeah.
And I love it's so true for all of us that we have to work on ourselves first. We get to work on ourselves first before we can be of service to others. And
it's everything.
And the work is so easy once we've done that. It's like we just attract when we are in a space of taking care of ourselves first.
Yeah, what I learned along the way, that this is something that everybody could really benefit from, is that I learned, like, I had been trying to build businesses prior to meeting my mentor, before I really started working on me and my weaknesses in depth. I was only really entertaining my strengths, right? I wasn't really working on my weaknesses, like the fact that I wasn't training 7 days a week and taking care of my body 7 days a week. The fact that I was drinking either socially sometimes or recklessly, living that lifestyle. I wasn't attacking my weaknesses. And so when I really, truly started working on me, I realized that success was subtractive. Once I got rid of the bad habits, the bad drinking, the bad lifestyle, I started feeling more confident inside. And not only that, but then the second and third order effects of that were tremendous too, because I wasn't spending the way that I was spending before. I was more focused on my goal. There's more time going into my goals. And so really things started working themselves out because I subtracted this negative lifestyle that I was living. So I learned that success is subtractive. And then the other thing that I learned is how powerful mindset is. Mindset was everything. My evolution from Tarzan boy in the mountains of Northern California to entrepreneur coaching 8-figure business leaders, 9-figure business leaders. I mean, I've coached leaders in $1 billion company. But what's the difference between Jeremiah in the woods and then Jeremiah coaching leaders in $1 billion company? It's mindset. Okay. So I learned I had to brainwash myself for success. My mentor taught me about life success, and I had to brainwash myself with the material he gave me. And this is what most people need to understand that are into personal development, is like, there's a difference between consuming the information and having it versus knowing it. Okay. When you have the information, you've read the book and you can recite it. Like if I read a manual about a book, I can tell you. If I read a manual about riding a bike, I can tell you how to ride the bike. But until I get on that bike, I don't know how to ride the bike. So a lot of people are consuming the information and the results aren't changing, and they can't figure out why. Okay. That issue is a mindset issue. They're not applying the information and taking the personal development tools and taking them for a ride. Okay. They're not they haven't fused with the knowing yet. And so that's what I was able to do. I was able to take his information, fuse with it, apply it, and start getting more results in my life and business. So, mindset really is everything. And what he taught me was that if you change your input, you can change your output. So everybody here needs to be working heavily on their mindset. And the way that you need to know if you need to work on it is if you have superior knowledge, but inferior results, there is a mindset gap. There's a mindset issue. If you understand that there are things like limiting beliefs, and yet you are not breaking through your limiting beliefs, you have a mindset issue. You have a mind knot. You have to close that gap. So that's what we've worked on big time, and that's what I help with people even to this day.
Man, dropping gym after gym after gym. Yeah. Love this, Jeremiah. This is amazing. Success, it's subtractive. Love that. And the world isn't as it is, it's as you are. Like I had to write that one down. That's so good. And the mindset is everything. And I think exactly what you're saying is something that I saw in the coaching school that I earned my coaching certification from, Jay Shetty Coaching Certification School.
Oh, cool.
Shout out to him. But it really is, you got to get those reps in. You can't just have the information or know it. You have to apply it and then live it, breathe it. That's what breeds authenticity. Yes. That's what breeds the confidence. And so I feel that in everything that you say, it's just resonates out of you. Leaps out of you. I can imagine as a mindset coach, you serve a wide range of people. You call yourself a universal coach. Tell us more about that. I love that title, by the way.
Yeah. I just label a universal coach because I help people with leadership. I help them with mindset. I help them with life. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't even have a label. I'm just a universal coach. I'm helping people get what they want. But yeah, a lot of the times what I'm working with somebody on is mostly mindset, because what I've learned over the years is when you build the person builds the business, So if I focus on rewiring their brain, helping them remove things like your mind has this, a lot of people think that they understand mindset, but they really don't. They just read a couple books on it. And what mindset really is it's like an unconscious, compilation of habits and behaviors, right, that make up your thinking, and that thinking drives your results. So the smartest people in the world can't even tell you what the mind looks like. And so we have a very low level understanding about the mind. And what I've done is I've dived deep into that. And what I teach my clients, one of the tools is called the mental Gerber. So you have all these mindset tools available to you to get what you want. A Gerber is like a Swiss Army knife. It has all these different the pliers on it, or the file on it. It's got the Phillips screwdriver. It's all these different tools. But a Gerber is what we use in the military. So you have this mental Gerber available to you, and it has things on it like your consciousness, your ability to observe your own self-talk. Consciousness is a higher faculty of the human mind. Okay, so consciousness, you have will, you have memory, you have creation. Creation is a mindset tool. Human beings have the ability to create something from nothing. We also have our imagination. We have perception, and we have reasons. These tools are actually these are so powerful. If we get taught that we have these available to us, we can accomplish any mission that we set our mind to. But most people are completely unaware that they have a tool where they can audit their self-talk. They have a tool where they can imagine what their dream life is and then go out and create it. And so, when I equip a leader with these mindset tools, then we can scale the business. We can help them design their dream life. It doesn't matter what it is. I had a guy, I taught him he wanted to run a marathon. He had never ran a marathon he never ran more than 8 miles in a single day. I got off a call with him, and that day he went out and ran a marathon. And I just did some simple mindset shifts to him. So it's you have this power available to you through your mindset. And I think above all things, that's really what I help people with. But I do help them with the other areas: business, leadership, fitness, nutrition, discipline, and all the things that people say that they want.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you're definitely a universal coach. And I love the mental Gerber. I'm going to have to steal that one because that's so good. It's just such a great analogy. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Wow, Jeremiah, these are just such amazing pointers. You talk about the importance of attacking one's weakness. Can you provide some guidance on how individuals can identify and work on their weaknesses effectively?
Yeah, there's two areas where I saw a lot of results in my life to overcome my weaknesses. One was through daily journaling. And number two is through training. These are two things that everybody can control and utilize to attack their weaknesses. So when I journal every single day, the first thing that I do is I consciously stream. I just allow whatever nagging thoughts are on my mind to come out and basically cleanse myself, kind of like going to the bathroom, right? I'm just going to mentally cleanse myself onto paper, not overthink any of the thoughts, just allow them to come out. Because the truth of the matter is I'm very negative. I wake up and I have big time attitude problem. And some of that is personality and genetic. Some of it comes from, the stress of deployments and just developing these thinking patterns. So I've had, like I said before, I've had to brainwash me. And one of the ways I brainwash me is by starting off my morning by journaling. Let me just let this stuff out. And then after about a paragraph, I'm going to change the narrative. I'm going to reframe my thoughts, and I'm going to point my mind at my goals, my vision, the positive things in my life. And I'm going to reframe all those thoughts and get them pointing in a positive direction. Okay. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to write out some things that I'm grateful for, and I'm going to remind myself of my goals. Okay. So that's an important process, because when you start allowing your thoughts to come forward, your weaknesses will reveal themselves. You'll find out where you don't feel confident. You'll find out where you're cutting corners. You'll find out where your excuses are. Like for me, I started writing about the drinking that I was doing. I would write the next day that when you wake up, even if you've just had a couple of beers and you broke up, maybe you said you're going to have one and you had like 3 and you broke a promise to yourself. The next day you feel like shit. You feel guilty. And so that's a weakness inside of us. And we don't get taught in life to attack these weaknesses. A lot of times in life, we get taught just to entertain our strengths. Like people always praise you and pat you on the back, but your weaknesses can be a thing that really holds you back in life. How can you hit the next level if you're holding, like you have an anchor that's keeping you where you're at? So we have to get rid of this anchor. We have to get rid of these weaknesses that are pulling us down. So journaling is one way. Another way is self-reflection through cardio and through working out and training. A lot of people, when they train, they put in headphones, they go to the gym, they listen to music, they allow other people to hijack their thoughts. The thing that I've done that's different with most people is that when I go out and I train, most of the time I don't even have headphones in. 95% of the time, I want my thoughts. I want to hear them, because when I start listening to them, I can finally hear what I'm telling to myself when I'm not thinking. Our self-talk is so negative in life. Yeah. Like if we talk to our friends the way that we talk to ourselves, we wouldn't have any friends. We are so mean to ourselves. And so when I go out and I train, I have a bunch of different ways that I will go do cardio and work on my mindset. But one of the ways is I just allow the nagging thoughts to come forward. All right. And then I tackle them. Another thing that I do is I'll go on a run, maybe an hour-long run, and I'll just meditate on one problem and don't allow my mind to deviate from that one problem at all. So if it starts thinking about work or whatever, I just keep it focused on that one problem until I have the solution and 3 steps that I can take to fix it. So this process of like being with your thoughts is really the solution to figuring out what your weaknesses are and how to fix them. And the more honest we can be about that, then and only then can we actually improve.
Yeah, those 2 tips are just incredible. Journaling and being as specific as you possibly can with your journaling and getting those negative thoughts out. And then not having the distractions, right? We want to look at our phones or have music in or have a podcast in, and to actually face head on those negative thoughts, let them come in, be aware of them so that we can release them, manage them.
Yeah, and it's important because your mind, the way your mind works, when you have a thought, it's basically like firing a line of thinking. Mm-hmm. The way I look at it is it's like creating a road inside of your mind. Mm-hmm. So when you think something negative about yourself, I'm not good enough, I'll never make it, you're a failure, whatever the thought is, you're basically like I was as an engineer, you're creating this dirt road inside of your mind. And the more you think it, the harder and harder that road gets until it's asphalt or concrete and it's solidified. And then decades go by and you have this road inside of your mind that you can't stop thinking, you can't stop driving. So what we have to do is, instead of like trying to rip up the road, what we need to do is just create new roads inside of our minds. Okay. And this is how your mindset works. Your mindset, it has all the programs that you've absorbed in your life stored inside of it. Okay. So the language that you speak is a program that is stored inside of your mind. You don't have to think about the language that you speak, English. It's just there and it's available to you. Okay. If I want to remove English from my language, or if I want to speak another language, is it easier to remove the English, or is it easier to add in Spanish or another language? It's easier to add in a second language. So when it comes to positive self-talk and positive thoughts, we want to create those through journaling, create new neural pathways inside of our mind that point us in a positive direction versus the negative direction that we're naturally headed towards.
Yeah, the new neural pathways are so important because we have the human has an average of 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and the majority of those are negative. So like what you're saying is just so true, and it's so powerful. Like I do journaling as well. I mostly do my journaling at night, but I do this thing called the release exercise. And I just release anything in me because I don't want to carry anything going to bed. I want to sleep like a baby. And it has helped me tremendously because I used to hold everything in and internalize things when I was younger. And I didn't know because I didn't have the tools, and I was journaling, but I was journaling about my day, or, I had no purpose in my journaling. So having purpose in your journaling is so just, it's
intentional.
It's a game
Everything,
changer.
if you can set your day, your whole day should be intentional. Like, I talk to people about intention all the time, because if you go and run, you want to get in shape. You go out to the track and you go run 400-meter repeats. If you're not intentional about your times, you're not going to make any gains. You can go out there and just do laps on the 400-meter track and you won't see any improvement. But if you go out there with an intention, I need to run for a specified amount of time, I need to run for this many reps, whatever it is, now all of a sudden we start to see some results as a byproduct of being intentional. So my goal from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep is to be intentional with every second of my day. That's journaling, that's working out. I don't want any drifting in my life. Napoleon Hill talked about that. He said that drifting was basically a strategy for the devil. The devil causes us to drift away from what our destiny is. He wants us to be distracted with fast food, with social media. I mean, he didn't say those things in the book, but he was talking about this concept of mentally drifting. And most people are mentally drifting. They're drifting away from what their destiny is because they're not being intentional with how they're approaching their time and how they're approaching their day.
That is so good. And it's so true. And I'm so curious, like, because so many people that I see, people I'm coaching, I know people that Allie's a licensed therapist, so her clients as well, they're all searching for their purpose, and trying to find like what's their purpose on, in life. And how do you I'm so curious, like, how do you help people discover their purpose? Could you discuss like your perspective on how they can even start by finding their purpose?
Yeah. The thing I always tell people, your purpose is 50% calling, 50% choice.
Oh, that is so good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's true. So your your purpose is 50% calling, 50% choice. And the reason why is because, your negative self-talk inside of your mind is the loudest. Right? It's your nagging thoughts, what you think bad about yourself. I'm not good enough looking. I'm not capable. I'm not smart. These are the loudest voices inside of our head. But the voice that is sweet to us, it's so soft and quiet. And so your purpose in life is often delivered to you as a whisper. It's telling you like a little kid, like, hey, I'm trying to get your attention over here, right? And if we would just stop listening to the negative thoughts and just listen to the whisper, we could find and hear our purpose. Now, the other part of this is that we have to make a decision. We have to agree. It's like a handshake. I have to hear my purpose, and then I have to say, you know what, that is it. And then I have to start living in that way. And that's what happened with me in Conquer Academy. I was like, my mentor told me, I think you could be a coach. And that was the whisper, right? I'm like, and then the loud voice was like, no, you can't. And then deep down inside, I'm like, well, maybe you could. And so at some point I said yes to it. And then I started really thinking about it and I made a decision. I said, this is for me. I can feel it. And so when you say yes to that little whisper that's inside of your mind, what ends up happening is you fall in love with the destination. You fall in love with the destiny that you know is already meant for you. What you want wants you. What you want wants you. So the thing that you want in life, your purpose, it's seeking you too. So it's going to keep showing up in your life, but you're stubborn to like say that is my purpose. You keep ignoring it and going the other direction. Just listen to it and say yes to it.
You are like literally saying my life right now, because I have heard so many whispers of you should be a coach, you should do this, you should be an entrepreneur, all these things. And I was just I kept telling myself, oh, you're not ready. You're not ready. Oh, you have kids. Like, you need to slow down. You need to do this. Just all the negative things, and then believing those things. And then finally it was like what my friend, shout out to Stacy, she calls this moment a big red truck moment, where it's like the freaking truck is standing right in front of you. You can't miss a big red truck.
That's probably why you're a great coach. Cause I always tell people, I'm like, all these people that want to be coaches, I'm like, you guys probably are not fit to be coaches, but the person over here that's questioning themselves, and they're like, I kind of want to do it, but I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'll do a good job. No, I'll do it later. You're probably going to be the best coach. Like, you are like the person that doesn't want it. So it's probably true for you.
Jeramiah, one of my favorite parts of this interview is seeing Demisha's reactions to all of your gems. She's not easily excited, and she's like sitting here almost falling out of her seat with all your wisdom. So I just wanted to point that out. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, it is just incredible how those whispers were so incredibly helpful. It's why Demisha and I are here with each other. I was trying so hard to ignore a whisper that was like, you guys are supposed to do something together. And I'm like, I just met her. What are you talking about? But listening, but being in that prepared space was so important too, because if I had not been in that space and I was in the future mode or in go mode, I wouldn't have even stopped to hear those whispers at all. And to respond in the way that I did and reach out.
You made a choice. You made a choice though. And that's how.
And look at us now, interviewing you, and Demisha's practically falling out of her seat with all your wisdom. So you've also started Stop Trying to Be a Coach. What's the deeper message behind this statement, and how does it impact your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, I did a video about all these people that I saw basically jumping online and trying to be coaches. And I'm like, guys, stop trying to be a coach. You guys go get some life experience and go do something first. And the reason why I said that is because a lot of people, everything looks easy from the outside. So especially on social media, you have all these people that are coming through on Instagram and these different platforms, and they're seeing coaches and it looks easy. And a lot of them want success. They want to feel significant. They want more money. And so they identify coaching with all of that. And so coaching is actually the wrong place for anybody that wants to just make money. And a lot of these guys are looking at coaching as a place to do that. So I'm really talking to them. I'm like, stop coming over here and just trying to make money. Coaching is like some of the most difficult work you'll ever do, because a lot of people get it confused. They think that they're just sharing their information, their education. No, you're influencing and changing human behavior. Like, you realize how hard that is? Like, I've got decades of leadership experience. It's still a challenge, right? And you're a therapist. It's still a challenge. Like, it's always a challenge. So that message that I give with people of stop trying to be a coach, it's to redirect them to not focus on the instant gratification that coaching looks like it could give them with money and a business and everything, and really focus on them and who they want to become and become successful, and then go and teach others. I think everybody can be a coach. I think everybody can be a mentor, and I think they should. Whether they charge for that or not, that's kind of up to them. But I think that, our job in life as leaders is to build ourselves up and then turn around and teach that stuff to other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So everybody has that ability in them. Even parents, it's very natural. Parents, like, they grow up, they work through all their problems, and they try to, if you're a good one, you try to teach those lessons to your kids, right? So my message is more like about focus on personal greatness. In order for me to become a coach, a successful one, I had to build myself and get into the top military units that I could get into. And then once I did that, then people wanted to hire me to work with them. But a lot of these people are trying to get to the result without going through the work. And so that's who the message is for.
Yeah. And that's such great advice. It's kind of stopping and looking at your intentions. And when you were saying that we're changing lives, I'm like, it is such a huge honor and responsibility what we're doing. Like that in itself should be the reward. And there's that saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I live by that for the most part. Like, it is just such an honor what we do, and the money is second. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's so true. And I do believe everything starts and ends with you. So until you do the work, like you can't even show up authentically to lead anyone, you know? And so so I love that you have that. I'm going to share that video out because I'm like seeing just coach. I'm sure you see it too on LinkedIn, on Instagram. It's like coaches are popping up left and right, you know, but they're
for like 6 months, six months, and then they disappear.
Exactly. Well, you mentioned social media, and we love your videos that you're sharing, especially those that include your wife. Where I love those videos. I'm like, I can't wait to see more. But you kind of share, you guys explore the dynamics of a relationship and supporting high achievers. Can you share a little bit more insight on how individuals can maintain a healthy relationship while striving for excellence?
Yeah. So the reason why we put out relationship content is because my page, I see it as, I want it to be the best personal development and life success book on the face of the planet. So while I'm not a relationship coach, I do help people with their relationship. And my wife and I have a very unique relationship in that we met in Iraq. We actually met, we were both soldiers. She believed in me from the very beginning when she had no right or any reason to believe in me. And the only reason I think I've achieved some level of success today is because of her. She believed in me the whole time. So we met at war at 20 years old. We went through long distance relationship. We went through all the ups and downs of serving in the military, being together. And not only that, but then we're both entrepreneurs. So the odds of us staying together for, it's been 16 years or so, are pretty slim. So what we try to share through social media is just our perspective on relationship. I'm not necessarily the one that's like, you have to do it like this with your relationship. But people have been asking, like you just mentioned, they've been asking for us to put out some stuff because they want to hear the perspective. So the thing with high achievers, me and my wife are very much yin and yang. She's a high achiever in her way. And the way we've come together as a team in the household is we created a vision for what success would look like. And the way that looks like is that I'm going to tackle the biggest challenges that the house has. I'm going to find the biggest problems, the biggest tree, and I'm going to cut that thing down. And she's going to be out there and she's going to go through and she's going to clean up all the other shit, all the other shrubs and debris and weeds. And she's going to clear out all the things that would stop me from taking down that tree. So it's blocking and tackling as a household. So we have this yin and yang relationship, and we both value each person's lane equally. Now, within being a high achiever, I'm very much, I have to do, right? She's very go with the flow and the supporter in the household. And we both love that about each other. So the way that we found balance is when you have a high achiever that just wants to go, sometimes that will isolate the supporter. It'll make them feel like they're not being seen, heard, or whatever. What we found is that if we focus more on intention and the time that we do have, that 5 minutes, that 15 minutes, that hour is more valuable than a full day, a full week, any amount of time, if you're intentional with it. So one little technique that everybody can use for their relationships is, we started doing this after I got back from a deployment. I got back and I wasn't being present. I was completely disconnected. We were sitting on the couch and we actually got into a big argument. She's like, you're home, but you're not present. And I was like, after the fight happened, we went into problem solving mode. And I took responsibility and I said, you know what, you're right. I wasn't present. I was detached. So what I started doing is every single night we sat down to have dinner, I would take my cell phone and as a symbol of respect towards her and intention, I would throw the cell phone onto my couch. And I would say, look, I'm going and I'm being present with you. Throw this on the couch and I'm going to dinner with you. And so every night we do dinner, we sit down at the table, no cell phones. We look at each other and we just ask powerful questions to one another. So we try to get creative. We say things like, what was a moment of your day that made you smile? Or what was a funny moment that happened today that you weren't expecting? And we just try to ask really curious, inquisitive questions that create this dialogue and get us to learn more about the other person. One time I asked her, tell me something about you that I don't know that you would think is not a big deal and wouldn't share unless I asked like I am asking right now. Come to find out, she's like, I've been helping hearing and vision impaired people navigate the internet in some of my spare time. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I've been helping. She's like, if you've ever seen me take a call and go outside, it's because I'm helping somebody get through the internet that can't see or operate the internet like everybody else can. I was like, how long have you been doing that? She's like, years. I was like, so it's really about the quality of time that we spend with each other and using that over trying to get more time with one another.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think too, like to your point, when you've been together with someone so long, and they've really seen you through all those different, transitions that you've experienced, that you've shared on today's podcast. It's so easy just to get in this kind of rut where you're almost like roommates, where you're not intentional. And it sounds like you're just very intentional in every area of your life, including your relationship. I love that.
Really, it's like attacking weaknesses, like you mentioned earlier, right? Every area of life. If you're going to try and achieve success in one area of life, you should try to achieve it in all. So any success we have in a relationship comes from attacking the weaknesses that were created and the problems that we create across time.
Yeah. And I'm glad you pointed out quality time versus quantity time. That's something I focus on with couples in my therapy work with them, and just helping find the barriers to happiness. And oftentimes it is about not finding, we don't have time. And it's not about the time, it's about the quality of the time spent together. So
absolutely,
thank you for that. So I wanted to ask you, what book recommendations or podcast recommendations do you have for our audience that have been instrumental in your healing journey?
The first one is I study like Marcus Aurelius and stuff like that. I love Stoics. So there's a book by Ryan Holiday called 365 Daily Meditations. It's called The Daily Stoic. And then the subtitle is 365 Days of Daily Meditations. I like that book a lot because basically it has one page for every day of the year. It has a Stoic philosophy and a translation underneath it. And that book really helped me get control of my emotions and how I saw and viewed the world, because I was kind of had an attitude, chip on my shoulder kind of type of person. And that book helped me look at the world a little bit more neutrally. And I developed more understanding. It also helped me develop reading as a habit. Right. It's pretty easy just to read a paragraph a day and do that over and over and over again. Especially somebody like myself who didn't really develop good reading habits till later in life. The second book, which changed my life tremendously, is the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. I read that book. That's a good couples strategy as well. Read a book together. My wife recommended that book, Mindset by Carol Dweck, to me, and it basically taught me how to have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And then the last thing is, I love quotes. I do a quote every single morning. I've done that for years, and I love them so much because they're so condensed. It's such condensed knowledge, and you can meditate on it. And if you don't do quotes, you could do the Bible verse, right? And those are simple little things that have a huge effect when you read them. There's actually one of my favorite sayings is like, you can teach an uneducated man about life with quotes. Right. And I really learned about life through quotes. I learned about, everything from Einstein to Aurelius and all of them. So those are a couple of recommendations that anybody could use to start working on their reading and some mindset strategies.
That is so helpful, because I so often have clients that say, I don't read, I don't have time to read. There's no excuse to not read a short quote and then be able to meditate on that. That's one thing I brought up to Demisha. I was like, we could do an entire episode based on one quote.
Yeah.
For mentioning that.
Yeah, I was so going to say that, Allie. And I've been a huge fan of quotes my entire life. Like I'm an avid reader.
Nice quotes.
My parents used to call me the hermit of the family, but I used to keep a journal of quotes. And so I have journals of thousands of quotes, and eventually got comfortable sharing my own. Last 18 months, I've been putting out my own stuff, and it's a great release, but also I get inspired by other people's quotes. So I love that you mentioned that. You are just such an incredible guest, and I'm so grateful that you blessed Sunday SoulDay. What are your aspirations for Conquer Academy, or even personal, do you that you want to share today?
Yeah, my goal with Conquer Academy is to build the best coaching company on the face of the planet. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a pretty bold one, but I see the vision, and it's crazy because the life that I'm living now all started off as fantasy and imagination. I had no belief that I could create anything like that I've created today. I mean, we do events, we do leadership events, we do business events. I do virtual coaching from anybody that's under 6 figures or over 9. And it all started with vision. And so I know that it's possible. And that's what we're going to end up doing. But my goal is to build high quality leaders in society. That's really what I want. When I look around at the world, I see a world that's kind of headed towards doom and disaster. And I'm basically trying to be part of the solution and fix that. I want good people that are good to their neighbors. They're people of integrity. They're people that have a process for designing the life that they want. They're people that make good money. They know how to make good money. They understand how money works. Like all the stuff and that we don't learn in school. I want to deliver that to the world and just make the world better.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I can't wait to watch your journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you definitely demonstrate being someone who is part of the solution and helps lead other people to be part of the solution. We typically ask a question to everyone about how you feel your mind, body, and soul. We didn't even have to ask you that because you have shared with us so many gems, like Demisha pointed out, for how you feel your mind, body, and soul, and specific steps all of us can take on how we can fuel our mind, body, and soul. So thank you for being the ultimate guest today.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
My last question is, where can people find you, Jeremiah?
Instagram. So you guys, just to make sure you guys spell those that are listening, make sure you spell my name right. It's my parents decided to make it tricky. It's JeramiahSolven. So you can follow me on Instagram, and I answer every single DM that comes through. If you give me a follow, 99% of the time, I'm going to say, hey, what's up? It's me. What's going on? Tell me about you, and I'm going to get to know you. If you don't believe it's me, I'll prove it to you. So I keep up with that stuff. It's very important for me to connect with everybody that comes through. If you guys have anything, need anything, you guys don't hesitate to reach out.
Wonderful. And thank you guys so much for joining today. I know that you have so many gems that you got out of this interview. Do me a favor, comment below. Share at least one of the gems that Jeremiah inspired in you, and we can't wait to see you guys next Sunday. Everybody have a blessed Sunday.